All right, what's up, everybody? Look, I am just wrapping up my week here in Dubai for Token 2049, and I was able to gather a ton of alpha over the week that I want to start sharing with you. Now, today we're going to start talking about something that I realized or recognized over the week that I think is actually very important. And it's something that not a lot of people are talking about, but I do believe it's going to allow us, me and you, those of you who are watching this video, to have an advantage and to be able to make some gains in this market in a niche that no one's really talking about right now. And I know that sounds a little bit kind of like cryptic, but just give me a few minutes and you'll completely understand what I'm talking about. Now, before you can kind of understand what I'm talking about, let me give you a bit of context because this week in Dubai, especially at the Token 2049 event, was much different than any of the other events and any of the other big networking meetups that I've ever been to. You know, the last couple ones that I've been to over the last couple years were full of a lot of different projects, Bitcoin miners, startups, pre-sale companies. I mean, there were many projects that were there that were huge sponsors, throwing big parties, throwing big events. And I think it was because the liquidity was there, right? Over the last few years, there was a lot more liquidity amongst microcaps and amongst startups and amongst layer ones and utility projects, which allowed them to have the money to be able to then go and host these huge multi-$100,000 parties and events. Whereas this year, that wasn't really the case. You see, what I noticed this year was that about 10% maybe of all of the events and all of the networking and all of the sponsorships were actually projects. And 90% of all of this was exchanges. And when I noticed that, when I realized that, it made my head start to turn. What was the change? What's so different right now versus last year and the year before that? And it comes down to liquidity. You see, what I realized over the last week was that a lot of these big companies, these big projects, these big layer ones, these big pre-sales, these big microcaps, they don't have money. And you know what I've said here on the channel multiple times is that you need money to be successful in crypto. If you want to be a crypto project or a crypto startup or have a pre-sale that you really want to gain traction, you need to have money, you need to have a network, you need to have good marketing. You need to be able to get your name out there. And without money, you can't really do that. And it explains to me, it makes a lot of sense now as to why we've not really been seeing many of these microcaps, many of these small startups, many of these newer projects in crypto doing well. They just don't have money to spend. But someone does. And that's exchanges. And it really started to make me recognize, like, wait, yeah, it's a clear thing. It's so obvious. In moments like right now, when we've been seeing liquidations going absolutely nuts, when we've been seeing market volatility going crazy, huge wicks, I mean, crazy things happening in the space, exchanges have still been making money. Because although there's not a lot of liquidity in these projects, there is still a lot of liquidity in the market. And these exchanges are still having people trading. They're spending money like crazy on influencers like myself and some of the other ones in the market to, do these promotions and get their names out there. And they're still making a metric ton of money. And because they're making a lot of money, they're able to still sponsor these events. They're able to still get their name out there. They're able to still do all this marketing, to get more creators, to get more marketing campaigns. I mean, they're still out there building and growing. And what this means to me is that when the market does turn, and when we do start to actually see a lot of, injection of retail investors, a lot of liquidity re-enter the market, I actually think that exchanges might perform better this bull run than any bull run that there's ever been. Because in the bear period, in these downtimes that we're seeing right now, they're able to reinvest. They're reinjecting money back into the platforms, getting more traders, getting more revenue. And that revenue is a direct reflection of the price of their tokens. Because oftentimes these exchanges will use the money they're generating from fees and from traders to reinject it back into their token, back into their platform, which oftentimes does reflect as price growth. It's the reason why back in the day when FTX went crazy, the FTT token did so well. Because, obviously it was a scam, but they were able to reinject and reinvest more money back into the platform and back into the token, which absolutely sent it. And so what this means to me is that I need to have a mental shift and I need to be looking at some of these exchange tokens. I need to be finding these ones that these exchanges have been reinvesting into because I genuinely believe, again, when the market does start to really pick back up, exchanges have done such a good job at building this huge gap between themselves and all of these other projects that their tokens are probably going to go nuts. And they're probably going to see huge growth and huge gains because exchanges are the ones who've been able to actually make money over the last couple of months. And so because of this, I am going to be releasing a full report very soon over in the school and here on YouTube about all of these different exchange tokens that I like, which ones I'm seeing, which ones I'm investing into, and much more. But in the meantime, what I want you to do is I want you to go check out some of the different exchange tokens yourselves. you can go to CoinGecko, and you can go type in on Google just CoinGecko exchange tokens list, and it'll pop up a ton of different ones, and start doing some research in the meantime so that you can start building up your own list of exchange tokens while I do the same. And then we can kind of compare some of our data in the next couple of weeks here. Okay. And so with that in mind, check them out. I do believe this is huge, huge, huge alpha. And again, I don't really see many people talking about it, meaning it could still be very early. So I'll keep you all updated. I am going to be heading out soon here. It's been a fantastic week in Dubai. I mean, the Burj Khalifa is absolutely massive. I keep looking up at it because it freaks me out how tall it is. But it's been a great week. I met a lot of you. It was absolutely amazing. So I appreciate every one of you that I met. Some of you had very, very kind words. I always appreciate that. Check out the links to BTCC down below if you do want to start trading yourself today. Check out the link to the school down below if you want to start elevating your crypto game. And I can't wait to see you all very soon. Peace out, everybody.